for that.
Okay.
He said,
Sorry.
wait a minute.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Chair Dillman, before you actually start with the elections, then we should, after you do the introductions, could we do an official roll call then? Then we'd be okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, folks, we are
Okay.
live on Facebook and Zoom.
Okay, now I'm going to ask Vesta to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Are you ready, Vesta? You got to take yourself off mute.
Mute. Okay.
And
Dillman, before you actually start.
then can we have the flag?
Then we should, after you do the introductions, could we do an official roll call then? Then we'd be okay.
Okay, folks, we are live on
We
Facebook
need
and
a flag, don't we?
Okay, there we go.
We got a flag?
Okay, Vesta,
Okay. I pledge
pledge
allegiance
allegiance to
to
the
the
flag
flag of the United
United
States
of
of America
America,
and to the republic
to
for
state
which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for
for
all.
Thank you very much. That's a tough one. Okay, so I would like to go over the new people on the board and alternates. Lisa and would you raise your hand so that the public can know who you are? Lisa Nominson is the Forestville rep. And Lucy Hardcastle is the alternate. Alice Teeter is the Hacienda rep. And Sherry Owens is the alternate. Naomi Huffstetter is Guerneville rep. And Nick Carrera is Guerneville rep. I don't know that he's here yet. Kyra Wink, Monterey Villa Grande rep. And Cynthia Strecker, alternate, Monterey Villa Grande. Mike Nichols, Casadero. And then we have Tony Goodwin, Casadero alternate. I'm probably going to really murder this, but Joe Feledchek, Rio Nito. Did I do it? Oh, wow. Great. Thank you. And these are the new people. So Linda, would you please administer the oath of office to our new members?
Yes, it is my great honor, and thank you all so much for being part of the Municipal Advisory Council going forward. So the only thing that I'm going to say that will be different from what you say is that I am going to start off by saying, I state your name. Don't say state your name, just state your name, and then we'll move forward with the oath of office. So if it's your first time, you don't want to make that mistake, right? So if you wouldn't mind unmuting if you are one of the folks who will be taking the oath of office today so that we can all hear you. So I state your name.
I, Michael
Joe Do solemnly swear
do solemnly
swear that I will support and defend
that I will
support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of
State of
California
California
against all enemies,
against all
enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and
foreign
domestic,
and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith
faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of
Constitution
the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the
and the
Constitution
Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I
that I
take
take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without
any
any
mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of
purpose
evasion,
evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge
discharge
the
the
duties
duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
to enter.
Congratulations, everyone, and thanks so much. Back to you, Chairwoman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations
Thank
and
you.
welcome. And we're looking forward to everybody getting out there and keeping rolling. And now it's my understanding that it's been requested that the alternates, if you can enter the public part of the agenda, maybe Jason, you can help them get through that. Because we want to basically have a minimum people on the picture.
Right. They'll just need to drop off of this and then use the public link.
Okay. So I'm going to proceed while we're doing that. By the time you get there, we'll be done with roll call, which the clerk will now, Nance Jones will read the roll call.
Okay, Lisa Nominson, if
Present.
you could just, okay. Alice Teeter. I see you. Naomi Hofstetter. I see you there. Nick Pereira. I saw Nick. There's Nick. Okay. Kyra Wink.
Yes, here.
There you are. Mike Nichols. There you are. Jeanette Dillman.
Here,
Pip Marquez de la Plata.
Here.
Yeah, I see him. I see him. Okay. And Vesta Cope Stakes.
Here.
The roll has been called.
thank you. So we will proceed with the election of the chair at this time. And I do note there are two biographies in the packet, one a person who's willing to serve as chair and one for vice chair. We'll just be doing the chair at this point. So I open the floor for nominations for the chair of the Lower Russian River MAC.
I nominate Pip de la Marqueta Plaza. Blah, blah, blah.
Second the nomination.
De la Plata.
Okay, and
Perfect.
Mike seconds. So is
That's
there,
all right, Vesta.
are there any other nominations?
I move we accept by acclaim.
So do you want to call the roll, please, Nance? Or do we have to do that with the claim? Let's do a roll call, please.
I'm okay with
All
that.
those in favor of Pip for chair?
Aye.
Oh. I was going to call roll, but
It would-
everybody,
It would be good to call the roll for the record if you don't.
I can do that.
I didn't raise my hand.
Okay, we're going to call you. You can vote for yourself, Pip. Please.
Okay, hang on. Okay, Lisa Nominson, you can just raise your hand. Okay. Alice Teeter. Naomi Hofstetter. Nick Pereira. Kyra Wink. Mike Nichols. Jeanette Dillman. Pip Marquez de la Plata, you vote for yourself. There you go. And Vesta Cope Stakes.
Okay, so we
The
have
vote is 900.
we have a new chair. Congratulations, Pip, and I hand it over to you. And good luck.
I hope I'm not going to need good luck. And it's going to be a better year, right, guys? Anyway, so thank you all for asking me to do this and voting and all of that stuff. I am looking forward to it quite a bit. And the next thing we need to do is to nominate a vice chair. So do we have a nomination for vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Kyra Wink for vice chair.
You second that motion?
All right. Any other nominations for vice chair? That being said, do we want to take a vote? You're muted, Nance.
Sorry about that. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, we have a motion and a second.
Okay. I will go ahead and call roll. This is for Kyra Wink as vice chair. Lisa Nominson. Alice Teeter, Naomi Hofstetter, Nick Pereira, Kyra Wink, Mike Nichols, Jeanette Dillman, Pip Marquez de la Plata, and Vesta Cope Stakes. Motion carries 900.
Yay, congratulations. All right. So the next thing we need to do is move on to the approval of the agenda. Has everyone had a chance to look through? Does anyone want to move to approve, or do you have any comments?
I'd like to ask for the bylaws to be pulled.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
Right, but it's in the agenda, so you have to take it off of
Oh,
the,
I'm sorry, yeah. So approval of the agenda with the removal of the bylaws. There is maybe a little legal language glitch that we have to remedy, and we'll present that at the next meeting.
Motion to approve?
Do we have a second? Vesta?
All in favor? Thank you.
All right, now's the time for, oh, Nick, did you? Oh, he's just approving, okay. For any, if anyone has any conflict of interest with anything that's on the agenda tonight, it's your time to raise your hand and let us know that that conflict exists. Anyone?
Nope.
Okay, hearing no conflicts of interest, we're going to move to correspondence, which we have none. So this is a very quick session, a section here.
This part.
So we're going to go to E, which is the consent calendar. So we need a motion to approve the consent calendar with, like we said before, with the removal of the bylaws, which will be presented at the next meeting.
you can just
I,
go,
there needs to be a correction on the minutes.
Oh, there does.
On page 16, it has my name as Mike McNichols, and that is not my name.
don't you have some
Hang on,
stuff?
hang on a second, Mike. Page 16, I have Nichols spelled wrong.
Yes.
Okay,
That was the only correction that I had to the minutes.
Right. Oh, there we go.
Anyone else?
Fine.
So can we get a motion to approve the consent calendar with the removal of the amended bylaws, which will be presented at the next meeting?
Yes, Vesta?
Yes. I approved the bylaws, the last meeting notes with the removal of the bylaws.
There a second?
sorry, I didn't get that. Who, right?
Kyra.
Okay, great.
All right, you want to do a roll call, Nance?
Sure, I can. Okay, Lisa Nominson, Alice Teeter, Naomi Hofstetter, Nick Pereira, Kyra Wink, Mike Nichols, Jeanette Dillman, Pip Marquez de la Plata, Vesta Cope Stakes. Motion approved.
All right. Okay, so now we're going to move to public comment. So this section of the meeting is for anyone that's not on the council to discuss that is not on the agenda. So if it's on the agenda, I don't I don't want to be rude, but we'll kind of cut you off and we'll move to that we'll get your comment when we get to that topic area. And we do have a lot of people and we try to keep time. So the comments will be limited to 2 minutes. So is there any public comment that anyone wants to bring up something that's not on the agenda?
We have 3 people with their hands raised right now, and the first being Lloyd Guccione. Lloyd, I have unmuted you. You should be able to speak. You there, Lloyd?
I am speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. As you went through your agenda, the beginning parts, I noticed you didn't ask for public comment. For example, when you when you had your election of officers, you did not ask, so etc. And then when you went through your consent agenda, I had wanted to make a comment on your report, your annual report. And but you didn't ask for comments, so that was not allowed at that time either. So anyway, it's nice to meet you, and I'm glad at the meeting. Thank you. End.
Okay.
Okay.
And who's next?
We have Jean Broom or Jeanne Broom. Jeanne, I've unmuted you.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Broom. I am a senior at El Molino, and I just wanted to speak briefly, hopefully to get this body's support on behalf of Measure A. I just want to talk about my experience at El Molino and how I think it really offers a unique and really vital learning environment for students in the river community. It provides incredible academic opportunity with a number of APs, college prep courses, and a lot of social opportunities like clubs, extracurriculars, and varsity athletics. I actually just came from a cross-country practice. And it accomplishes all of this in the setting of a small and inclusive environment. And I think that's really the standout aspect of El Molino, is that, you know, anyone who's involved in the community in any way, that's what they'll tell you, is that the community and the bond that we have there is so strong. And I think it's really vital to keep this school going and to keep this institution of not only learning, but of safety for our students in the river community. I know it's been a tough couple of years, and I think that keeping El Molino open for all the students out here is really important to you know, try to keep our students and our young people on the right path and provide them with as much support as we can during these challenging times. So thank you so much for letting me speak, and I hope that you all will consider supporting Measure A and B.
Thank you. All right, Jason, who's next?
We have Vera Foss.
Hello, Vera.
Vera, you are unmuted.
I think she's
Vera,
still.
Unmute.
there
Is
you
that
go.
good? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yes.
can hear you now.
Okay. Hello, esteemed board members of the MAC, and thank you so much. I want to say real quick, I'm Vera Faust. I'm the project manager of Friends of Fife Creek and the owner of Never End Salon. I work with the Homeless Action Group. I have many issues to bring to the MAC, but this is the most important. I know many of the homeless people, and I know many of the community and the merchants. I see a big problem. The frustration is not getting good cleaning service in the bathroom that's located by the police station. It's filthy and it's unacceptable. We need additional bathrooms near the fire station, a more complete solution, which could happen at the park and ride, a rest stop with bathrooms and parking for tourists. I request that the group put their weight behind getting these things done with an offer to help me. Thank you for giving me this time, and I ask that this be put on the next agenda, if possible, to talk about further. And I really want to thank our new MAC board members for jumping on. Thank you very much, and I look forward to being more a part of you.
Thanks, Vera.
Mhm.
Vera?
All right.
Next, we have Julie Hunter.
Hi, Julie.
Julie?
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, my name is Julie Hunter and I'm a West County community member as well and a VRBO operator for the last 5 years. And I'm here to talk in support of Measure B. As a permitted operator, I can assure any opponents to Measure B that no tourist considering a vacation here would be daunted by the specter of paying an additional $4 per each $100 of overnight hotel or equivalent stays. Visitors virtually flock to the West County to enjoy all of our plentiful wineries and tasting options, scores of fine dining opportunities, hiking, biking, Russian River beaches, coastlines, Armstrong Woods, you know it, the like. The latter creates significant negative impacts on all of our beloved resources, crowding, traffic, a disproportionate use of emergency services and the like. So it's really sad to see that local taxpayers have been footing the bill for these guests for so long. And it's inconceivable and short-sighted to think that these tourists would change their minds about coming here over a measly 4% increase. That is literally $4 per $100 of bookings. Our area has never been and will never be a cheap vacation destination, but that's okay because everyone will keep coming anyway. It's time to give the bill for these hidden costs back to the visitors who caused them. I can tell you that my operation is pretty inexpensive compared to others, and I have never heard anybody complain about it at all. In fact, all the time I find that I have leftover cases of wines and leftover empty wine bottles and virtually everything you can imagine that are souvenirs of our lovely location. So bottom line is nobody is really going to care about it at all. And we can use it, all those funds for fantastic support of our kids. We need it. We need you to support Measure B. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Next, we have Ryan. Ryan Berkmos.
Yay, thank you.
Hi there.
Hi, Ryan, we can hear you.
Great. So I support Measure A, but I wanted to speak about Measure B, which I also support. I am a travel guidebook writer. I live here in Monte Rio. I've written over 130 guidebooks over the last few years. And my work takes me around the world going to places that deal with massive tourism all the time. And I want to chime in support of what Julie said, because I have never seen anywhere that's popular with tourists where a $250 a night room, adding $10 to that is going to make any difference to anybody at all. That's not going to affect bookings whatsoever. And I think given our great need for revenue here in the West County to support education and emergency services, it's important that we not scare away just simple casual day visitors. You know, people talk about putting in tolls on the roads or day use fees or anything like that. And I think that would harm all of our businesses like restaurants and bars and shops. Whereas a simple fee on rooms, I don't think that's going to impact negatively. I am sympathetic with businesses which are worried about that, but I just don't see that happening from my experience. You know, here in California, down in Anaheim, they've got a 17% tax on rooms. And, you know, when Disneyland's open, Anaheim hotels are filled. So adding 4% here in the West County, I think is sustainable. And I think it's really important for our services and for getting a new generation set up with what they need to really prosper in life. Finally, I've been delivering Yes on B signs here around the West County, and there's just, you get back into some of the pockets of poverty, and I just worry about that. So please vote yes on Measure B. Thanks.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay,
Yeah, it's awesome.
next we have Galen Sword. Galen, you are unmuted.
Yes, hi, thank you so much. My name is Galen Sword, and I am a longtime resident of the area and have been involved deeply with the schools in West Sonoma County as a student myself, as a parent, and now I'm here advocating as those in the past have talked about Measure A as well as Measure B. Basically just wanting to emphasize the importance of not looking at these taxes as just another tax, as has been happened in the past, but that this is a very crucial time to take the time to make some radical changes in our school system to make the school viable. And with the possibility of closing down El Molino, I think you can all imagine just the detrimental effects that will have on the community as a whole, with losing more population because there's not a high school for their kids to go to. I also want you to think about the fact that if El Molino closes, we have less traffic going through our towns, people moving away, businesses are going to close, restaurants are going to close, and all those things that our tourists come to enjoy will go away so that they will stop coming. And that is going to deter tourists to our area much more than a 4% tax is going to do. So I just implore you to support it, tell your neighbors, go out and vote, send your ballots in, and let's keep the crown jewel of our community, El Molino, open for the generations to come. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Galen. Okay. Next we have Steve Griffith. Steve, you are unmuted. You need to unmute yourself, Steve.
All right, Steve, take two. Thank you. Steve Griffith here from Forestville, father of two grads of our wonderful high schools, in this case, El Molino, also a retired teacher. So I'm here to speak to the importance to the MAC group and to the river communities, of which I consider myself a resident in Forestville. As a teacher and as a parent, I've seen the crushing effects of underfunding of education in general. I've seen the problems, the very real problems that our school board is coping with diminishing enrollment. And I believe that they have finally taken some possible real positive steps towards a structural change, not just kicking the can down the road, and that would be authorizing the unification feasibility study, which will look at the possibility of our school districts banding together, just like the fire districts are finding that it helps them with their resources to band together. The Sonoma Fire District now, hopefully with Measure B passing, will be able to successfully unify with Bodega Bay Fire District. Well, similarly, we have an issue on the horizon, not a guarantee, but an issue, a possibility of unification of smaller school districts into a manageably sized, bigger, more stable district. That's what we're after. And I believe that that stability is very much part of what you fine folks are paying attention to with the health of the lower river communities. Healthy schools mean healthy communities. And I know that that's what you're after. So I'm hoping that you will join. And thank you very much.
Next, we have Elise Sokole. Elise, you are
Okay, can you hear
able to
me?
speak? Yes, we can.
I'm not sure if this item is included on the agenda or not. I live on Tyrone Road, and I'm concerned about the impacts of the two new regional park on our street, the traffic and the parking. Do you know, is this included on tonight's agenda under regional parks?
That is not specifically included.
Well, I'd like to know when there will be information about it coming out and when the neighborhood can make its voice heard about our concerns.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Next, we have Randy Orcati.
Thank you. I appreciate your time, and it's nice to see some of the new neighbors that I've been chatting with online. I'd like to respectfully offer a counterpoint for the no on B measure, and I'd like to direct you to the Save Sonoma Jobs website and to a video post in the Guerneville Locals or the Up with Guerneville site that Krista from Boone posted. The committee officially is absolutely for schools and for EMS services. Their position is well laid out there, and I'd humbly like to suggest that we're not Ammonheim. And the argument that this is just for $4 misses the fact that many of the tourists stay multiple nights, and it's $18 per $100, and it does add up, and we do see people choosing other destinations. And then lastly, it's not that it's just the weekends that we see that are crowded and terrible and we're all mad at the tourists for being here. It's the 365 days that we're running businesses and trying to get people here into the community. And so with that, we understand the issues that tourists create, and we understand the needs of the kids and EMS, and we have lots of opportunities to work together for a better solution. And Measure B will absolutely hurt our occupancy 365 days a year, not just a few days a year during the high seasons that irritate the hell out of all of us. So I'd ask you to go to Save Sonoma County Jobs and get the other side of the argument. We love kids too.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Eric Frazier. Eric? You there?
Yes, thank you. You can hear me okay?
Yeah,
sure can.
Yeah, good evening, and thank you very much for your service. I did want to bring you up to date on some of our latest research regarding Measure B. I'm a dad of an Annalee grad, so I have a lot of experience hanging around the West County, and I visit frequently. And when I say visit, that's an important thing to realize, because when you look at truly what a visitor is to what would be the special taxation area or to the coast, they are frequently people that live within the county and pay taxes within the county. And they're not, and while tourism certainly is something to speak about, I suppose, the concept that tourists need to pay their fair share really misses the point of really trying to capture and pay for those impacts from people predominantly from the county or adjoining counties coming to the county to enjoy themselves. The other thing I wanted to point out that's a major flaw in Measure B, and it's very distressing, quite frankly, is because there really wasn't much time to study this at all, it is really becoming clear that while we can appreciate an attempt to find funding for public schools, there's a reason why TOT was never used for public schools before. And we can see it pretty clearly when we follow the boundary of this proposed special taxation area. Outside of the boundary is actually families and students that are much worse off than the students within the boundary. And that disparity is going to grow. Quite frankly, I feel it's very poor policy to create a special area that excludes, for instance, students in the Roseland or in the coastal areas from receiving benefit and just benefiting people that can vote that benefit into place. Surely that's not going to stand some sort of challenge. So I appreciate keeping things factual and constitutionally correct. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Eric. And next we have Krista. One second here. Do some technical cleanup. Okay, Krista.
Hey there, can you hear me, folks?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Hey, everybody. Great to see some familiar faces. Krista Lidke here, owner of Boone Hotel and Spa, Boone Restaurant, Broats, and El Barrio in Guerneville. And just want to share a few things about Measure B. And I think this whole process, I want to be very clear, and I'll share my voting preferences. I voted yes on A. I think our schools are incredibly important to this community. That goes without question, as well as emergency services. As many of you know, I spent a great deal of time during the Walbridge fires cooking for all of our first responders here with no money and no employees coming in due to closures of the pandemic. So these things are very near and dear to my heart. But Measure B to me is just bad policy. And what I mean by that is the stakeholders were not involved with a voice at the table. The very stakeholders who essentially are going to be strapped with a tax in perpetuity with no end unless repealed for something that is a short-term problem. And I see that as really bad policymaking for us not to have been engaged on something like that. Moreover, I feel there's a lot of flaws in this policy in that the maps of the TOT special taxation area cross over into other school districts. And so I just feel that there's a lot of unfairness with this, as well as Sebastopol voters, when Sebastopol doesn't collect the tax, and I could go on. But I really think that this is the wrong fix for the problem, and we're simply creating another problem. Like many have said, we're all visitors when we go to the coast. We need to find stable solutions, but building a tax on an industry that's already struggling is really difficult. And I think it's also important to know that just 3 years ago, we had a 3% increase, a 33% to the total in TOT, and we did see a direct decline in occupancy. The TOT dollars may have gone up to the county, but our occupancy and our revenue went down. And so this will matter to us. And that's why I'm standing up for no on B.
Thanks, Krista.
Thank you, Krista.
It seems like we have a lot of folks that want to talk about A and B. And we have a lot of stuff to get through on the meeting. So maybe we can do just 5 more minutes on comments on A and B, and then we need to move on to other topics.
Okay, we don't have any more hands raised in the attendees. We do have one comment in the Q&A, and that's from Randy Marcotti. And he says, I would ask please that you put both yes and no links in the minutes.
I don't actually, this is Nance, the clerk. I'm not sure what there are links that they suggested. Okay, I get it. Thanks.
Then Facebook, we have a comment from Debbie Ramirez. TOT is used for public school funding now. It is explained at the SCTV website. And
all right. Is that it for public comment?
We do have Lloyd Gucciani. He's raised his hand again.
Okay.
Would you like to recognize him again?
Yep.
Sure.
Thank you. Can you hear, please?
Yep.
Yes.
Can you hear, please? Thank you very much. I just noticed that when people were speaking, the time clock view blocked all of the you. I put it in a question, so I could not see your reaction to what the speakers were saying. Also, I could not see the speakers. Thank you. See,
All right.
like right now, all I can see on my screen is the time clock. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lloyd. I think your question was answered in the chat directly on how to remedy that. Okay, if there's no more public comment, is that correct? I can't see who's asking, so I'm relying on you, Jason.
We are complete on public comment, Chair.
All right, great. Thank you for everyone for letting us know what's on your mind. It's important. I mean, one of the things that are odd about these meetings is that you make comments and we sit here like stones with our faces like and not responding to you all. It's not that we don't want to. It's just that if it's not on an agenda, it's very difficult for a council member to actually respond and engage without it being on the agenda. So it's not that we're ignoring, we're actually listening. A lot of us, I'm sure, are taking notes. But just so you know, we're not blowing you off. We're listening and we're trying to get through a meeting in accordance with the laws in the Brown Act that we have to follow. So anyway, with that, regular calendar items. The first item is a report on the Russian River Area Plan. And I think, Gary, this is you.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. I'm going to keep this relatively brief, and what I'd like to do is just do an overview of planning so that everybody's expectations of what we're going to do with the area plan is relatively accurate, and also to, kind of help inform public opinion and public input so that we're getting really good suggestions on this plan, and we're getting suggestions that we can actually implement. So if I can, I'm gonna share my screen just for a second and get very short PowerPoint to go over, and there's some slides there that we'll probably bring up later during Q&A. So let's see. No, that's not the PowerPoint that I thought it would be. That's the last one. Okay. Let me give it one more try here. There. Okay, is that visible to everybody?
I can see.
Mostly, can you see just the slide? I've got a funny connection with an iPad and a laptop here, so just want to make sure everyone is seeing the slide here.
I don't.
Yes. And Gary, can you send your attachment to Elise when you're done? If
Absolutely.
You haven't?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. How about now? Was that working?
That's great.
Okay.
You see it?
Very,
I don't see it.
excuse me?
I don't see it.
Can
I see it as the clerk.
I see it as a board member.
I see it as well. Why don't you move on? Maybe it's a technical.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, on my end, there's some technical issues too. My name is Gary Helfrich. I'm with the Permit Sonoma Comprehensive Planning Division, and I'm a 32-year resident of Camp Meeker. So I'm suffering a little bit from bandwidth on our end as well here. Permit Sonoma will be working with the council and with the community to prepare an area plan for the lower Russian River. And it's important, I think, first to go over where an area plan fits into the overall kind of scheme of how land use is regulated. So the general plan, you've got to remember, sits over top of everything, and any action that we do has to be consistent with the general plan, and that includes the an area plan or a specific plan. And in just a second, I'll go over the difference between an area plan and a specific plan. The zoning then has to be consistent with these plans, but we are often having folks say, okay, I want to change how we're regulating septic systems. And this is the important distinction, is development regulation is separate and apart from the area plan. Those standards are usually established by the state and then adopted by the board through ordinance, and they're not part of the zoning ordinance and they're not part of planning. Essentially, planning says what you can do on a piece of land and where you can build your improvements, but it is silent on how you construct those improvements. So just want to be clear on that. Like, we can control setbacks, but we can't control construction standards with planning. So the ability to prepare an area plan is specifically in the general plan in policy LU1J. And this is one of the things that's going to be important in just a second when I go over the difference between area plans and specific plans. That because the area plans are specifically authorized by the general plan, and that we have a certified EIR for the general plan, that area plans generally are easier to complete environmental review for, whereas specific plans often require EIRs. So we only have one specific plan that's actually adopted. There are two others in process, which are the Springs Area Specific Plan and Sonoma Developmental Center. But area plans are big efforts and they're comprehensive. They go beyond just land use regulation. They'll have building standards in them. Sometimes they have financial, they've got transportation plans as part of them. So they're almost, think of it like they're miniature general plans, but because of that, they do go through full environmental review. We have to do an EIR for every specific plan. Area plans, we have quite a few more. And I wasn't sure whether or not to put the Russian River corridor design guidelines in here, because that's one of the last sets of design guidelines we have. But really, when you read the corridor plan, that essentially is an area plan, the corridor plan that was adopted in 2010. So specific plans are extra components to the general plan, but like any part, the state law says that general plans must be internally consistent. So when a specific plan is adopted, it has to match with all the other parts of the general plan. But specific plans can include regulation and implementation standards that actually are zoning. There'll be an ordinance adopted. And in the airport is a good example where if you look at the standards for building height, for building setback, for improvement plans, they're very different in the airport than they are for the other industrial zones. The area plans clarify and interpret the policies that are already in the general plan, because often the policies will, not to make a bad pun, they'll be general. I mean, it'll say that something is encouraged or something should be fostered, but it doesn't say exactly how to do it. So what an area plan will do is, for instance, if the Lower Russian River corridor plan is a good example, is it tells a developer, it tells a property owner exactly how to interpret design review. It sets out specific standards. So it's consistent with the protection of scenic corridors. It's a policy in the general plan, but the general plan policy doesn't really lay out how landscaping should work, how signage should work, things like that. So that's an example of the area plan clarifying existing general plan policies. But once again, the important thing in terms of level of effort is a specific plan will need full environmental review, and the area plan, because it's consistent with the general plan, usually we find it exempt because we tier it off the general plan, or at the very most will need a mitigated negative declaration. So the process for adoption and approval is quicker, and it's also more flexible for an area plan. That's all we've got right now. I do want to go over, where our status right now, our progress or lack of progress that we've made, and what our plan is for the future. We are finally able to assemble a planning team to work on the lower Russian River plan. We're having some real problems with capacity, and it'll likely be my colleague Ross, who is a native of Monte Rio. So, while I'm not from the Russian River area, we're both pretty familiar with West County and familiar with the issues and the challenges that all of us face here. So we really look forward to getting ideas from the community and I'd encourage you to start providing them now. Policies that you would like to see clarified, things that you think would really help specific areas in the community. The great thing about the area plan is it is able to take that fine-grained look community by community. We can recognize that a standard that works in Cazadero does not necessarily work in Forestville. They're different communities, different standards. So with that, I'd open it to questions, and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I think what we'll do, and this will just be a general rhythm when we have a presenter, is that we'll go to the council members first for comments or questions, and then we'll move to the public. So does any council member have any specific questions or comments that they would like to make at this time? Anybody? I have.
Okay, I was worried that nobody cares about the plan.
So one thing that you mentioned was that you'd like to work with the MAC on this, but can you tell us specifically what kind of input or help you would need from the MAC that would be most useful to permit Sonoma, but also for us as individuals in different communities that represent the MAC that would benefit us as well?
I think the first thing is to have everybody perhaps think hard about standards that are in our general plan that maybe you've seen inconsistent interpretation. Things, for instance, something as simple as front yard setback averaging. We often have folks come in and nothing meets the front yard setback standard in the river, and we know that. And there's a very awkward process that everybody has to go through, and we ultimately find a way to say yes. But it would be much better. I'm just using this as a low-hanging fruit example. It works for Permit Sonoma staff. If we just had a set of standards that we follow, you would have a form that you fill out and click, and we're done. And then we can approve whatever it is that you wanted to do within the front yard setback. So that's like drilling down to a very fine-grained example. In the business community, if there are problems with signage and design review, or things that the community feels either there hasn't been consistent treatment of projects, or that it's very difficult for the property owners and business owners to understand the policies that are in the general plan, just pointing out those policies that are creating the problem would be great. And we can work on some policy options that could help clarify that in the Russian River area. And if there's policies that, the general plan works for the entire county. And this is the problem that we've run into, is because each community is unique, each one is different, and each one has a different set of constraints and opportunities. And there's often land use policies that just don't fit that well. And landowners will constantly run into them. I mean, we're aware of quite a few of them, but it's much better if we have the community tell us, hey, we've always had a problem with front yard fences. That's one that, just to bring up something that is a problem for us, a problem for everybody, and we desperately want to fix that. But the community standards for front yard fences are going to be different in each community. Some places aren't going to want them because they feel it makes their community look like a gulag, and other communities, we've heard the opposite, that they want their privacy and they do not want people looking into their yard. But we need to know, because it isn't a one size fits all. And that's the purpose of an area plan, is to get away from the one size fits all.
All right, great. Thank you. Anyone else on the Vesta? I see your hand.
Do you have a Pip? I have a point.
Oh, I didn't see you, Mike. Sorry.
Gary, thank you very much for that front yard and fence issue, because that's a real bugaboo in Cazadero, as you well know. And we've had a number of people that have been cited by Permit Sonoma requesting the fences be reduced to 4 feet in height along Cazadero Highway. And we have others with 9-foot fences and 10-foot fences. So there is a lack of consistency. And the concern, I think, from many of the homeowners along various roads in Cazadero is the fact that many of these people erect a 6-foot fence with a 2-foot lattice on top of it, primarily to keep deer out of their yards if they want to have a vegetable garden. So these are just some of the examples that we need to examine, at least in this district, and we need some clarity and unity in what we're doing as we move forward. So thank you again.
All right. Vesta, I saw you had your hand up.
Gary, I went to look it online.
Oh, Vesta, you froze.
You stopped, Vesta.
Uh-oh.
You're okay now.
Okay, good. Thank you. I believe this is it, and I want to be able to make sure that other people can find it as well, that it's under the Sonoma County .ca.gov PRMD long range plans, general plan, land use, Russian River area. So the page opens up as land use planning area for Russian River area. Is that the one that we're looking at?
Well, not into now. One awkward thing. There's many awkward things about our general plan, and feel free to contact me if you get confused. I mean, that's the other thing I'd like to put myself and Permit Sonoma staff out as is, provide you with technical assistance. The general plan historically has split the county up into 9 planning areas, but we have 5 supervisoral districts. So that's the problem is, excuse me, that the lower Russian River also includes, I forget what number Cazadero is, but Cazadero is in a different planning area than Forestville and Guerneville. But one other thing too is one corner of the lower Russian River MAC is in the coastal zone, and that's a separate set of regulations. There's no overlap. This thing to be clear, the LCP and the general plan are 2 separate documents. There's essentially 2 sets of land use regulations in this county. So for the purposes of this, because we don't want to also have to go and get Coastal Commission certification that the Duncan's Mills in the lower Moscow Road area is not going, we hope that we don't, I mean, we're going to do what we're directed to do by the board, but it'd be much easier if we didn't include the coastal zone.
So how do we find this then on the Permit Sonoma site? If this one, the planning area 4, is it planning area 4 is one of the areas that's on here for us to find, to look at, so we can examine?
Okay, the way to navigate I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but your screen froze.
Oh, God, again.
Okay.
Unstable internet.
So I would recommend this approach, that the land use element covers the entire county. So you first read through that, because there's a lot of things that just apply everywhere. Then there'll be policies just for the planning areas. At that point, the general plan land use map has a map. There is a map that shows you the 9 planning areas and identify which one you're in. But the idea is, don't look up policies by the planning area first, because those are just a small set of specific policies that apply to that planning area. But it may be some of these, as Mike pointed out, the fence policies apply everywhere. And they're not specific to planning area 4 or planning area 2 or anywhere else.
I would say, and one other question, in terms of the area we're in, it's high density forests and very difficult roads. When you're planning for the future, do you have the roads designated for fire vehicle, emergency vehicles in a way that's different from other places that are flatter, less curvy, etc.? As you build more buildings, or wherever you're putting the new buildings in and they have to meet the specifications, yeah?
We do not at this point. The public safety element and the housing element are 2 elements that were mandated to update on a regular basis. The rest of the general plan, there's really no legal mandate to do anything to it, although over time it gets pretty ineffective. So be sure to not just stop at the land use element. Most people feel that land use regulation is the general plan. You just pointed out a good point. The circulation and transit element is one I'd really encourage people to read, because that also deals with things like sidewalks and pedestrian safety, which can be really important in the business core of Guerneville. Boy, you get down in Hacienda, is like you can play Frogger going across the street there. Those are areas where the area plan can set a better vision for the community to improve it for people once they get out of their cars, and make the area be more pedestrian and bicycle friendly. So that's just one example.
And then do you also deal with the concept of the septic system rules have changed, and therefore, as we move forward, those are part of this plan as well, that's being incorporated because the rules change so much?
That is the best question. No, absolutely not. Septic regulations are really in their own separate silo, because that is governed through a document called the OTS manual, on-site wastewater treatment system manual, that has to be approved by the regional board. It is literally a whole separate set of regulations that has no connection to the general plan. So the general plan does not have any effect on, unfortunately, on regulation of septic systems.
So someone could build a house in an area and then it would be a separate item entirely. Okay, my time is up, I can tell.
Yep. Okay, thanks, Beth. Hey, Mike, I see your hand and you're on mute.
Thank you very much for recognizing me. This is a really complex subject, Gary, and all of us are pretty new at it. I think it would be helpful if you could do a 1-page, if you will, tree. In other words, where we should start, give us the websites, and then how we should progress through the documents to the various areas that you're specifying in your presentation. I think we would get completely lost on the Permit Sonoma website, because I've been there. And if you help us out and lead us down the path, so to speak, that would really, really be helpful and save a heck of a lot of time for the board members. Thank you.
Yeah, more than happy to provide resources, and please distribute them to the public too. I mean, post them. That'd be great.
Yeah, public outreach is really important. And we had the same conversation at the Sonoma Mendocino Economic Development District meeting and at the Sonoma Clean Power meeting today. How do we do the best job in outreach to Latino neighbors to people that are not connected to the internet. How do we post and how do we get information out to the community? So there's a lot that we can work on in getting the information truly posted to all people on here. Thank you.
Okay, I'll do that. And I'll also, I think, do a paragraph on what an area plan is and is not, so that, for instance, the septic thing, that's a huge issue. There's a different tool that we have to use for that. This is not the right tool for that.
That would be great, Gary.
And if you make sure I get a copy, I'll put it in the minutes.
Yeah, that would be even better.
Okay.
All right, anyone else on the council have any questions or comments before we move to public? All right, questions. I'm gonna rely on you again because I can't see.
Got it. We've got a hand raised from Brian Hughes. Brian?
Yeah, thank you for recognizing me. I'm assuming I'm off of mute.
Yes, we can hear you.
I think that's become the #1 English phrase these days. Am I on mute? Or you're on mute. Anyways, I have a quick question. So does the area plan address local facilities? And can the plan cover the multiple CSD organizations and recommendations for consolidations? So thank you.
Yes to everything except for your last question. That is something that really LAFCO is the best venue.
Okay, next.
We can have a policy that encourages consolidation, but really that's LAFCO.
All right.
Okay, next up, we have Alexis Averbuck. Alexis, you are on mute.
Thank you for taking my call. I just want to clarify that I'm getting this straight. So I'm going to sort of ask a few questions in a quick series, and hopefully you'll tell me if I'm not getting it. So this is not just a purely aesthetic plan, as in, what color can you paint your house, but also functional. It applies to public and private. And I guess my thinking is, I can see where in public spaces, it would make sense that I'd want to participate and help shape how our communities function for all of us. But why, as a homeowner, would I want a sub plan telling me what to do on my private property? And am I misunderstanding?
No, you're not. And the area plans are very flexible too. They really represent the vision of the community. And some plans, like the Bennett Valley area plan, is just about aesthetics, and it's not about anything else, because that's the concern of that community. It doesn't go any deeper than that. We will go as deep as the community wants to go. But as Mike pointed out, there are interpretations that can be done, things like front yard fences, that very much affect quite a few property owners. In fact, more than I think most people expect. And it sounds trivial, but it's a big burden, and it's something that just creates a lot of work for the county employees and a lot of confusion on the part of the public. With regard, and there's other issues like on-street parking. There are some property owners that really don't have an alternative. If you live up in the terraces in Starrett Hill, it's great that there's a regulation that you provide 2 off-street parking spaces, but the reality is that you cannot. So one thing an area plan can do is try and strike a balance between allowing some use of on-street parking with also making sure that we regulate it correctly, because now it's ad hoc, and don't create problems for emergency response. I mean, that's, often actions that private property owners take affect other people. It doesn't just affect your use of your property. If you do something that makes it impossible for the ambulance to get to your neighbor's house, that's something that really should have some attention.
Great. Thanks, Gary. I think we have a couple more questions.
Next up, we have Eric Frazier.
Thanks again, Council. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. So one of the things that strikes me about the planning regimen is that quite frequently there's a basis of factual understanding that's missing from the discussion. And so while I can understand on the one hand, there's planning documents and sometimes those are more aspirational than actually what reflects what is going on. But I've also seen examples where Permit Sonoma has purposely published misleading information in order to create policy. The latest example was in the X zone discussion of a couple months ago, where the information that was created showed vacation rental permittees as opposed to vacation rentals that have an active history within a specific period of time. Another example was a survey that was done by your own group that was not scientific and was heavily misleading and biased. Thirdly, there's a study that the county paid for that claimed that vacation rentals offset affordable housing. Again, under peer review, that was totally debunked. So what I would hope is that there is really a pledge to commit to a basis of knowledge, of information that everybody can agree on before then specialized planning is done to offset those impacts or to plan around things that occur. So thank you very much. I appreciate everybody's time and work for the good of their communities, but I hope again you approach it in a very fact-driven way.
I think we got, do we have one more hand raised?
Got one more. We got Lloyd. One second, Lloyd. Okay, Lloyd, go ahead.
Lloyd, you're on mute.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Okay. As far as Jason's recommendation to go to something called gallery to remove the time clock so I can continue to see your faces, I have no idea where gallery is, and I've been looking. Anyway, thank you to this Mr. Helfrich for having him to speak to you. Very general comment. One thing is plans and thoughts about the West County have been going on for many, many years, right? Through many courses of supervisors, etc. Going back as far as my history, 35 years, good enough. One thing I see with Sonoma County, West County, is there's always been a problem with a development push, those who want to maximize it either for tax purposes, for interest, because it's a nice place to develop, and those who have a different point of view, who want to save it or preserve it and have that perspective, such as we see what happened in West Marin in the 70s, etc. And what we see now there as a result, an area that avoided development for the sake of tax dollars, etc. And a difficult decision they made. I hope that any considerations that Helfrich, Gary, and the community make will take into account that that dichotomy still exists and there need to be proponents to keep the West County from being overly developed. And here comes the time clock. And for some reason, I'm down to 31 seconds because you're still on 2 minute, which is not much time to talk. I did try to send an email to you guys in regards to issues dealing with the agenda item, Mr. Halfrock. And I guess I just don't have time. Perhaps you can contact Elise and she can get you the email that I tried to get to you today. Thank you.
Thanks, Lloyd.
Thank you, Lloyd. Then we have a few questions in the Q&A. Oh, we have one more hand up. We have Elise Sokole.
Hi, I am unclear about something how does this general plan interact with county improvements? For example, if we want to talk about bike paths, but that's not something that private people do, does that mandate that the county would make certain improvements, put in bike paths? Do you know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying, and we often, even in the county family, have confusion that the general plan regulates all the actions of the county, not just, it does not regulate just private property owners. It regulates public works. It regulates regional parks. It pretty much regulates all actions that occur. So the only, and for instance, the only way you get funding for a bike lane is if it's in your general plan. That's actually a requirement by Caltrans to provide funding for a bike lane.
Okay.
And it's also one of the best ways to, problem that we have in West County is Highway 116 is Main Street, but it's controlled by the state. The state is obligated, though, to be consistent with the local general plan. So whereas public works and private property owners can't control Caltrans, the general plan does have a meaningful effect on what Caltrans does with our main streets.
Okay.
Thank you. I think we got, do we have any more hands up?
We do. We have Randy McCarty. Okay, Randy, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. Three things I put in chat, but I know some people struggle with this video technology. That's what I do for a living. And so both to the council and to any community members that are looking for some coaching around how to use microphones and layouts, I'd be glad to donate a couple of minutes to anyone struggling with this, because this technology makes it hard to connect. And if you use it right, it can help you connect. So I think everyone can find me here, there, or on Facebook. Second is I'm also interested in sort of the 116 corridor, two things, the cleanup of properties and where you submit the reports of sort of derelict sites or trash on streets, or there's one here close to us. It looks like the whole property is falling down the hill and it's got some level of cleanup. So how do we help our neighbors attend to their trash or tattletale, or what's the process? And I could take that offline. And then lastly, around 116, I'm always interested in the traffic study and redirection around Guerneville downtown proper, thinking about all my travels to Europe and cafe culture that's there. And isn't there something during the high season that we could do to redirect traffic, even though I know it is a state road, so that we could use the downtown as more of a picnic or walking area? COVID's not going away in the near future. And I know there have been people who have been talking about that. So if you could point me to the people who have this idea too, I'd like to join whatever group that is to look at traffic and trash.
Okay, well, the issue of trash and just general road problems is to send that to the Transportation and Public Works website, has a report it link. They will forward it to Caltrans, right? They'll vet it too, because some people don't realize that River Road is not 116. They think 116 goes all the way to Mirabel. So there's a one-stop shop. You report it there. If it's a county issue, we deal with it. If it's Caltrans, we have them take care of it. And we found Caltrans in the last year has become way more responsive to these problems. To answer the second question, this is up to the will of the community, and the way to make something like that happen is it has to start with it being a policy and a plan. Caltrans isn't going to do something. Having it as a policy and the plan really says this is the community's vision for how this road should be, and that's really helpful to get things changed. So there's an area, there's something where the area plan, thinking long term, could potentially create a change, because we can have recommendations in there for Caltrans to work more closely with the local community and to do things like, have an open streets program during the summer.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, if we got one of our Tony Goodwin has his hand raised. He's still with us here in the panelist. Tony, if you could unmute yourself.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Jason. Gary, I appreciate you coming. You touched on a subject that's very dear to me. Cazadero, Duncan's Mills alternate. I work with Mike Nichols. And one of the big things is finding ways for people to live out here on their lands minimally. Maybe there's an advantage to someone who wants to live minimally on their land, and it doesn't cost them $80,000 for a house permit or something like that. I reached out to you. I sent you an email. Hopefully we can open up, some communication and work on that. I'd love to participate. I volunteer. I'm sometimes a volunteer firefighter. I participate with the community. And to do that, I need to keep my overhead low, which means keeping our impact fees down for living on our land. So thank you, Gary. Appreciate it. That's all I got.
And that's a great thing. And definitely, use me as a contact for things like that. It's beyond the scope of what we can do with an area plan. But it is something that we can look into, that we will look into, because it's recognized that the housing crisis is still here. COVID has taken up most of our bandwidth, but the housing crisis hasn't gone away.
All right. I think we can take two more questions on this particular topic, but we've got quite a bit more to cover. So,
okay. Pip, we have two hands raised.
Okay.
Brian Hughes and Elise Sokole, and we also have 5 questions in the Q&A. Would you prefer one or the other?
Let's go to the Q&A because we haven't done that yet.
Great. So first question is from Peter Bridge. When you say you have capacity issues, how do we help?
That's realistically, I think, beyond many people's control. That's, just having enough professional staff to get all the work done that needs to be done. There's just tremendous demand in all 5 districts for planning efforts, and we have a finite number of people. Usually we would have one planner assigned to one major project. I'm assigned to the local coastal plan update, to the hazard mitigation plan, and to vacation rentals. So that's how much bandwidth a single planner has to have. So that's what, when we say capacity, we almost literally mean our personal mental capacity. But we've done some process improvements internally. So, we're getting on top of it. But it's just a matter of the number of people we have and the number of very important projects that we need to get done.
Great, thanks. All right, one more from the Q&A.
One more is Sarah Yardley. Is there a timeline for the LRR plan? What sort of community outreach will there be?
We're not quite at that stage yet, but we'll be working closely with the 5th district, and we'll certainly announce things as soon as we don't want to commit to something until we've got a good work plan figured out and we know that we can honor our commitments to the community.
Okay, thank you so much, Gary, for all your time and your work on this. It was really informative.
Okay, and feel free to send my contact information out, and I can answer questions during business hours.
All right, and for those of you that we didn't get to your question on this topic, you can email those, and we will try to do what we can to get those to Gary. Okay, the next topic is tourism impact, and we got David Robinson from Regional Parks. He's going to talk about the shuttle and waste plans.
All right, good evening. Thank you, Chair and members of the Lower MAC. Can everybody hear me okay? Great. So as we all know, summer is coming up and we are not through with COVID yet. Hopefully there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. So we're anticipating big crowds again in the lower Russian River. We expect big crowds again on the coast, of course, too. And what we've learned over the past year is that sometimes parks are really the only game in town and have been during COVID-19. And we see people coming from all over the area, and we see the impacts that it has on the places that we love as Sonoma County residents, but also that the other communities also have grown to love and has become impacted, greatly impacted. So I thought there's probably questions about what we're going to do this year and what we've done in the past. So I'm just going to go through a list of what our plans are for this season as we move forward. It's mid-February. I'd just like to start by going over what we've done or what we did last year, which was definitely a different year than we've ever seen. We saw that every day during the summer was like a weekend day, and every weekend was like the 4th of July holiday. So we saw almost an 80% increase in visitorship throughout the park system, which affected, of course, trash, utilities, staffing. We couldn't hire enough staff because we couldn't get people through the physicals. Kaiser wasn't letting folks through. So it was a really, really rough summer season, and the season lasted from March till I think we finally slowed down maybe mid-October to November. So we're planning on something similar. And what we did last year, which many of you probably saw out there, is we increased signage. We tried to educate folks. We put out electronic signs. We changed overflow parking lots into drop-off areas so that people could drop folks off and they could use our facilities rather than going to the neighborhoods and just using the facilities where they shouldn't. We put out mask dispensers for folks. We had education stations where we educated people on how to behave, how to be good neighbors, and also how to stay safe with COVID. We increased the trash services almost double what we usually do. We created boat launch chutes so that people could still launch their boats while people were recreating along the river. We had staff cleaning neighborhoods as they were able. We closed some parks. We ended up closing quite a few parks, and then on busy weekends, we tried closing some of the river parks specifically, and then we restricted park walk-in access. We did Facebook and social media boosts to the greater Bay Area, and we did outreach education campaigns to park members. So we did all those things, and we're going to continue to do all those things again, with the exception of closing parks and restricting walk-ins to parks. We found that didn't work. What we see is that, like many things, it's like a tube of toothpaste. If you squeeze one area, it goes to the other area. And we saw huge impacts and safety impacts when we closed those parks because people have decided they're coming and they're going to show up. New to 2021, we've got some exciting new ideas, and we're willing to try most anything. We're going to add additional porta potties. Specifically, we're going to get 4 new porta potties at Steelhead Beach. So we'll get 2 at the access area up top so people can drop folks off and let them use the facilities there so they're not going to the neighborhoods again. 2 on the beach to protect the river because we're seeing that people are using the facilities, non-facilities down by the river if they don't have access to close ones. We're going to thin some vegetation and place 2 additional portable toilets at Mom's Beach for river access. We're going to throw another 2 additional portable toilets at Sunset proper and 1 on Sunset Avenue. We're going to move the gate down from Sunset Beach so that it doesn't impact River Road so much if that's a safety issue. We're getting additional trash cans again. We're doing a recycling with an education station. So for folks that didn't know, we haven't had recycling out there because people throw trash in it. And so we're going to try and staff the recycling and the trash so that people actually do recycle the right things and don't throw their trash in the recycling. We're going to increase staff even more than last year. We're hiring services to help clean neighborhoods after busy weekends. So we're going to try and work with Russian River Keeper and the river team if available. And if not, we'll use our probation department to help with that because we want to be good neighbors. And we understand that this is an attraction that brings people from everywhere. We're going to do a single-use plastic education campaign. One of the most disheartening things in the river is when you see at sunset all these single-use plastics just thrown away in the dumpster. People come and buy these $15, cheapo bits, and then just leave them. And they might work, they might not, but that all goes just straight into the dumpster, which is just, it sickens me. So we're going to do a campaign. We currently have a request for proposals that will go out for tube rentals, so people can maybe rent tubes. And we have a request for proposal for shuttle services. We had this ready last year to have a shuttle service that would frequent Steelhead and Sunset beaches for tubers and vacation, or not vacationers, for beachgoers, that would allow them to not take 2 different cars and just completely block the parking lot, or to bring 5 different cars. And the idea is that hopefully there's a private service that'll want to do this. I believe it will be somewhat, fairly lucrative, to be honest. And the RFP, which is a request for proposal from a private agency, does have the caveat that if they don't have private land to do this on, that the county may have some property that we can use for that. So we'll be putting that out shortly, hopefully having a contractor the contractor will have to adhere to COVID-19 guidelines, but like I said, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And then we'll be doing additional park ranger patrols. So we understand the impacts this has on the community out there. We're growing up in West County myself. It's very different. The times are very different from when I used to go to Steelhead Beach as a kid. So we're trying to mitigate these increases in visitation. And I look forward to any questions that you have, or any recommendations that you can give us.
Hey, Pip, you need to unmute, Pip.
Sorry about that. Alice, you had your hand up really fast, so we'll go to you first.
Yeah, hi, David. I was wondering if you could put up a contact information, or if you could send that out to the MAC.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Nick?
I was curious if you have jurisdiction or know who does for the summer crossing towards the west end of Guerneville, the dam and summer crossing out there.
Regional Parks does not have jurisdiction over that. And I'm not sure off the top of my head who has the summer crossing. Isn't that the Oddfellows?
It's Russian River Rec and Park.
Rec and Park for Johnson's? Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? Vesta?
First of all, I want to thank you very much for the efforts that you have for Steelhead Beach, because that's where I live, and appreciate the cleanups in the neighborhoods and all the rest of it. It has been pure hell all summer, every summer, especially last summer. And like in terms of the shuttle services, are you saying something about that land where people would come to and then get on their buses and then be shuttled to the parks? I don't know where you're going to find that.
I don't know. I don't know either yet, to be honest, but it's a trial basis, and we do have a park that's in mind where we have had overflow parking that's fairly centrally located, and we can use it for a trial. And the idea is that people coming from San Francisco or from out of the area can park there, use the facilities, dump their trash there, get on a shuttle, and then get picked up too. So it would decrease that impact by having a couple of, at this point, I guess it'd be vans instead of buses. Ideally, it was like, let's find some school buses and let's just, shuttle people around like Berks does. I'm not sure where we'll be at what point during the summer where you can't have 24 to 40 people on a bus.
Oh, that's true. The space on the bus. I forgot about that. I appreciate everything you've been doing, and I want to just make sure that you get recognition for it, because it has had a negative impact, and then what you've been doing does have a more positive impact. Do you have any rules around neighbors going down the trails and removing ivy from trees or any of that kind of stuff? Because a lot of our neighbors who go into, say, Steelhead Beach and love to go on Osprey Trail and all want to help with cleanup and fire mitigation and things like that. If you have rules for neighbors to do that we would love to know about it, so that we do and do not do what you want us to do.
Thank you. No, we'd love to have neighbors help out. And we actually have a great volunteer program where we can sign up neighbors as a volunteer. They get the fingerprinting, and they get they actually get a park pass. So each year they'll get a park pass, and if they're either doing public work days, that's usually the best way to do it, because then we can plan on providing the supplies, and we can kind of point folks in the right direction. And if there's specific trails, we're definitely open to it. And it's a great way for us to get help out there when, as you know, we're fairly we're stretched thin. It's tough.
Okay, appreciate that, because we have a bunch of us who want to do something. So thank you. And are you the person to contact, or is it John, who's the?
John's our volunteer coordinator, but yeah, John Ryan. But contact me if you get a group together, and I'll forward you all to John, and he's been doing online volunteer trainings.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, David. Anyone else on the council have any questions? All right, given that, we'll go to public questions.
We got 2 hands raised right now. The first is Andrew Lippett. Andrew, unfortunately, you're using an older version, so I'm going to have to promote you really quickly to get your question in.
Hello, yes.
Sorry about that, Andrew. Could you unmute yourself again, please?
There we go. This is actually just a comment for somebody who had a question earlier. It is Russian River Park and Rec that deal with the dam, specifically at Johnson's Beach, as well as Vacation Beach, that connects Neely Road to 116. But the bridge that is there is part of county roads. So the dam is different from the bridge. So did you catch that? No? I'm sorry. One moment.
You're kind of breaking up, Andrew. And Linda actually clarified that too in the chat.
Did you get that? No? No? That's okay. Sorry.
All right.
Then I'm good. I'm done. I'm
Okay.
done.
Thanks, Andrew. It's kind of hard to hear you. Is it Eric that has the hand up? Did we lose Jason?
Nope, I'm here. We got Eric Fraser next. And okay, Eric.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you, David Robinson, for that really good report. We really appreciate the dedication that park employees have and everybody has to recreation in the county. A couple comments that I have. Hopefully the increase in park usage has also resulted in an increase in donations and permit collection and people purchasing passes and things like that. And if not, I think it would be a great opportunity to really promote that. Our research shows that predominantly the people that use regional parks are from people from within the county. Although, of course, there are people that come from outside the county, sometimes driving as much as 2 or 3 hours to get here and use our various parks, sometimes our regional parks, but not always. And of course, there may be sometimes people that drive up from San Francisco or whatever, but I would say that a shuttle service would be more appropriate to shuttle people from the 101 corridor. It might be a little more ambitious than what you have in mind, but I really think that the commitment that we must share in Sonoma County is similar to what they have in the Coastal Commission's mandate, and that is making sure that we're encouraging visitation from people within our county and other Californians as well. So, and I also dictate that, or I also see that there's a flaw sometimes in our outreach because we're not really reaching out to people that should have a vested interest, and that is our visitors and our users. They need to be educated, they need to be involved, and I bet you if asked, they would contribute to the solution more than just go forward in ignorance and impacts. Thank you again for your time. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Eric. Okay. We have next is Elise Sokole.
Okay.
Elise, go ahead.
Hi. Yes. I live on Tyrone Road and I wanted to know your plans for the new regional park. I spoke to some of your rangers who are out here and they said that the only access to the trails in the park would be on Tyrone Road where there is no parking. And it's a rather pathetic and somewhat dangerous little road. We sometimes have people wandering around my hill looking for various vacation rentals or other things and putting us in rather dangerous situations on these roads. So we're really concerned, is the park going to be opening this spring even in a limited way? And what are people going to do what are they going to do about parking? And how are you going to direct them? And all of those questions. That's all.
Thanks, Elise. I am not the expert. We're planning that out right now. So we recently acquired it as a piece of, it's really through, a through property that has access to multiple other properties. Steve Arrett, our planning manager, I believe is queued. I'm not sure if Elise, I can't see Elise right now, but is queued up to answer questions about tour and present kind of the plans going forward with that. We do have a interim public access plan, which we put forward with the Ag and Open Space District that will allow some access, but it'll be small access of guided hikes. It's not going to be open to the public for until the master planning process is done, and he'll be able to answer those questions.
Great. We only have Andrew Lippett, who got cut off. He posted in the Q&A what he was trying to say, and I'll just go ahead and read it. He said, "My apologies. What I wanted to say was that the two dams along the Guerneville area are under Russian River Park and Rec District, but the bridge connecting Neely Road, Neely Road, Highway 116 is under county roads, completely separate." Okay, that's, well, we got Tony Goodwin over here.
Hi
Go ahead,
there.
Tony.
David, thank you again. We cherish our parks. I don't know what we'd do without them. But I brought up at I think last year or the year before at one of the meetings at East Austin Creek, right where the two creeks converge, Austin Creek and East Austin Creek in Cazadero. It's about 3 miles in from 116. We discovered it's a county park. A whole lot of area there, and we have a lot of folks come out and enjoy the creek. The situation that has risen is that we end up with a lot of trash and diapers and people going to the bathroom, all over other people's properties, trespassing and stuff like that. I was proposing that maybe we could get a trash can and a porta potty there during the heavy season, the summer season. And, with this COVID thing, we have had a lot of folks. I mean, we've had folks coming up the creek and coming through our yards because people are just trying to get out. They're trying to get out and get some fresh air. And I totally understand. But we'd love to see, or maybe I'd ask if there was something you can do, because it sounds like you're expanding the porta potty placement and trash can placement. If there was a way I could get East Austin Creek, that swimming area on your radar. Thank you, David.
Let me get back to you, Tony. I'm unfamiliar with that property. It doesn't sound like it's a regional park. It might be an ag and open space property or another parcel of property. So let me get back to you on that one.
I appreciate that.
Okay. That's going to do it for our comments here. Chair. If you're,
keep forgetting to take myself off mute, darn it. If I kept myself off mute, my dogs would, like, you'd hear them singing. Anyway, so given that we are past the public comment on that, I want to thank David so much for spending his time with us. It was super informative. And I have heard a lot of positive feedback, so that's great. Okay, next up we have residential parking permit, and I believe Kira and Lisa are going to give a presentation on what they have found out so far regarding the parking problems that we do have along the river during high tourist times.
Thank you, Pip. This is Kyra. Can you guys hear me all right? All right, so I'm going to keep this relatively short because we are running very over on time. So I just want to give you a quick summary. We launched this residential parking permit survey on December 17th, and we closed it on February 5th. We received 336 residents responded to our survey. It was widely distributed, and I'm going to hand off to Lisa in just a second to just quickly cover that. We did receive some very constructive criticism on our survey, and I just want to disclose that none of us on this ad hoc committee were experts on SurveyMonkey. So we did our best. We did get some really good ideas of how to go forward if we launch a survey again, and I promise we'll take those comments to heart. And then I'm going to go, after Lisa talks about all the outreach we did, I'm going to go very briefly over the survey contents and some of the comments, just to make sure people feel like they've been heard out there. Thank you. Lisa.
Yep. Okay. You can hear me, right?
Okay.
All right. Go very quickly. This at page 49 of your packet, which I'm sure you've all read thoroughly, I have listed all the outreach that was completed to get the word out about the survey. So basically, there was an article in the Gazette. It was Facebooked on Supervisor Hopkins' page and on our MAC page. We had we had a fair amount of Zooms. We nextdoored, we Facebooked, we posted in many locations around the different towns. And I wanted to thank everyone who helped post: Alice, Naomi, Vesta, Lucy, Mike, Pip, and Nick. If I missed you, I'm sorry. And you can see exactly where we posted everything. And also, Kyra and I spoke to folks on the phone. So in closing, get in touch with us if you want to talk more about it. And Kyra is going to talk about the next steps that are coming up. And if you see these posters up around, you can pull them down. We'd appreciate that. So thanks everyone who helped, and the details are there in the last page of your packet. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to go very quickly through this survey and just give a few comments. There were, I think, a total of, I don't know, 10, 12, 13 questions. The first question was, does your neighborhood experience problems with parking? We had a 53% people said yes. Most of the comments were roads were too narrow for safety, egress of traffic, EMS, UPS deliveries, etc. Blocked driveways and gates. Illegal and unforced parking came up a lot. Trash, overgrowth of the sides of the roads not maintained, which made things even more narrow for parking. Question 2, are there parking issues due to nearby river access? Guerneville kind of identified with Dubrava, Drake's, Riverside Drive, and Vacation Beach. Forestville was Mothers or Moms and Steelhead. Hacienda talked about Hacienda Bridge, Moms, Sunset, and Cosmo. Rio Neto talked about the Rio Neto and the Harris Family Riverfront Park. Pocket Canyon talked about Cozy Cove and Neighborhood Beach. Monterey, of course, was Monterey Beach. And Villa Grande was Patterson Point Preserve. Question 3, in which MAC community do you live? That was kind of self-explanatory of who lived where. Describe the boundaries, and people did kind of go over some of the boundaries, which was very informative to us, kind of understanding where residential parking zones might possibly be. Question 5 talked about, would you be willing to pay $25 and some project launch costs? There was a lot of questions about, well, what's this launch cost? And I'm not going to approve it without knowing what those are. A lot of people talked about shouldn't have to pay it in front of their own home. Enforcement is the key issue. And elitism, right-of-way cost increases, what will happen with that? We had a lot of people comment about maybe one free parking permit and then pay for others. Questions came up about what do we do with construction workers, healthcare aides, home health, that kind of stuff, which would all be described in more detail later. Question 6 talked about requiring an opt-in for neighborhoods. Would you be interested to help create it? That's kind of not a lot of comments on that. Question 7, do you think an RPP program would address some of the parking issues? 53% said yes, we thought it would. Enforcement, of course, would be the driving factor. Question 8 was how many permits should residents need? The most common one was 2, but again, what do we do with visitors and all that kind of stuff? Question 9, in addition to an RPP program, are there areas in your community that should have time limits for parking? Most said no. Question 10, is the RPP needed year round or for specific times of year? Clearly, as we heard on the regional parks presentation, the weekends are horrendous, and summer months, they say, you know, March, April, May to September, October. Question 11, would you support an RPP program in your neighborhood? 64% said yes, with 35% no. And what I did, just kind of trying to compare the data and get a real sense for things, is I compared question 3, which said, in which MAC community do you live? And then what they answered in question number 11, would you support an RPP program in your neighborhood? So the top 2 that said yes, they would, and where we got the most interest was from Hacienda, who was in number 1 position. 87% said yes, they would support it. And then Forestville was the next highest at 69.89% in favor of some sort of residential parking. Rio Neto and Pocket Canyon was in there, but they were very low response rates, so it's kind of hard. So when we look at what we're going to do next steps, clearly we found a couple areas that we're interested, and that was kind of what we really wanted to do. It was a litmus test to determine if there was interest out there, because this would need to be a county ordinance, and it would be county-wide. And so we want to reach out to the self-identified champions. There were several, like 25 people that volunteered to be champions. We want to reach out to all of them. We want to reach out to other MAC districts. I know the Coastal MAC is looking at this. Start some discussions with the county as to what would funding look like for this program. And then possibly add some volunteers to the ad hoc committee to move forward. Any questions?
Thank you, guys. I know this was a lot of work. And a lot of people like yapping at you.
It's all right. We can take it. No problem. It was actually, I was very happy that we had the responses we did. And constructive criticism and comments is actually a good thing. It means people are engaged, which is what I like. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any comments or questions from the council? And we're going to spend just a few minutes on this because it's already 7:30 and we got a big chunk of meeting left. So maybe we'll spend 2 minutes on questions in total on this before we move on to the next thing. So Make them fast, guys. Vesta.
You brought up the sides of the roads are not cleared or not maintained. One of the reasons that people, because I live in Steelhead Beach area, people insist on letting the roads is to keep people from parking there. So if that gets if it gets better maintained, that almost increases the ability for people to park there, and therefore then more signs, et cetera, and more people standing out on the corner all weekend long telling people to move it on, move it on. So I don't know where roads would come along and either take better care of them, or make sure that the blackberries do in fact grow out over the roads so people can't park there. So I don't know what you learned on that one. Thank you very much for doing this, because I live in a neighborhood where it's seriously impacted, and they're starting to come up the hills. I always thought that they would never with their floaters and parking in front of our houses. Yes.
All right, thanks, Vesta. Alice.
I wanted to speak for Hacienda has traditionally been north of River Road, but for the MAC purposes includes Mom's Beach, Old River Road. We did get up and flyer above Old River Road because one of the considerations for our community is that, you know, I have a gate on Forest Hills, I have a gate on River Drive. Those are both often blocked when I need to go to work by beach partiers. But one of the things we wanted to make sure is that we got the voice from people who live above Old River Road, which has historically not been like people parking up there for Mom's Beach or the illegal beach, the south end of Hacienda Bridge. But we wanted to get those voices in there. So I'm wondering from Kira and Lisa if you did get any specific commentary, because as Lisa and I talked about, like traditional distances that you could drag a canoe or a keg are going to change if the areas right along River Road change and have permit parking. How much is that going to impact the upper neighborhoods? So I want to keep that as part of the discussion.
Great, thanks, Alice. Okay, very quickly, I think one question from the public, if I'm seeing correct, and that's Phil.
We got Phil. Phil, you are unmute right now. Go ahead.
This is Phil Gross. I'm president of the Hacienda Improvement Association. I'm very gratified to see that Hacienda has had the greatest percentage of support for this plan. And I think there's a very simple explanation, is that the people in Hacienda have seen a very detailed plan for how this would affect our community. And I think that it's pretty clear that when a more detailed plan is available, support will go up all up and down the lower Russian River. And Vesta, some of the things that you just commented on are covered in the plan. We've got that covered, and it's very well explained. So I would encourage anyone who would like to get a hold of me. I'd be happy to present the plan to any community group up and down the river. Alice, Kyra, Lisa, Elise, all have my contact information. So happy to do that and happy to help in any way I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Okay, we're running short on time, so we're gonna move on to the next agenda item, which is Elise is gonna quickly talk about the relaunch of the Russian River Confluence. And you're on mute, Lise.
Hi, I was trying to share my screen at the same time. Is Jen Mendoza here?
Jen Mendoza is here. Hello.
Hi, Jen Mendoza.
Ready for me to take it away?
You're going to take it away. We're going to start with Jen Mendoza, and then I'm going to jump in, and we'll just go through it as quickly as we can, because this is important information. So we won't take it off, but we'll go quickly.
Hi guys. So I'm Jen Mendoza. I am the Elise Van Dyne of District 4, which is Supervisor James Gore's district. And one very common theme that both the District 4 and District 5 staff share are river issues. So back in 2016, Supervisor Gore launched the Russian River Confluence as a way to sort of consolidate and streamline different environmental and resource conservation efforts along the river. And I don't know if you remember, I'm sure many of you do, but that following January of 2017, y'all had a really big flood. It didn't affect our district as much as it did yours. And your adorably wonderful supervisor took office, and her very first day was out in the flood trying to pull people in. So a lot of efforts along the river kind of with the Russian River Confluence kind of faded away a little bit. And then, of course, October of 2017, we had the catastrophic Tubbs wildfire, and it affected a lot of our district. Our district covers Mark West and Coffee Park and some areas of Fountain Grove, and of course, the area up in Geyserville that was all affected. So a lot of the work that had been done was basically had gone to the wayside. However, the needs didn't, right? So fast forward to about, what was it, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago? No, it's about a year and a half ago. Elise started really looking at some of these issues on the river. And she took it to Supervisor Gore and Supervisor Hopkins and said, hey, we have all of these issues with trash and single-use plastics and all of these things going on. And we really should be doing something. We should really be joining forces and working on this. And Supervisor Gore said, oh, hey, guess what? I have this thing called the Russian River Confluence. And that would be really great if we could reboot it because it's time. And so one of the things that we've found is that not only have all of these big catastrophes affected the health of the river, which they have, but they've also affected the health of the communities around them, economic health, social health, community health, all of these different things. And so we've found that it's not just about picking trash and getting easements. It's a much, much broader sort of a situation now. And so the Russian River Confluence is trying to pull together all these different groups that are working with issues on the river. Now, you guys have similar groups upriver from you. So we have our Geyserville MAC. We also have our Dry Creek Valley CAC. And then we have the Mark West MAC, which is not on the river, but they are on a watershed. So there's a little bit of crossover there. So we have these different citizen groups that are all trying desperately to try to work through all of these issues. So trash, of course, is a huge one. Parking, that's another issue we're dealing with. We're trying to deal with tourism over the summer. So really trying to consolidate efforts and really getting this going again is what the intent of the confluence is, but in a much more broad and inclusive sort of way, that we aren't just dealing with one issue, having a bunch of groups dealing with one issue, but having a more comprehensive view of the situation and a more cohesive view, because the river itself is kind of its own entity. And while you guys have different issues to some extent than our folks do up north, because we don't really have access points. You guys have parks that are heavily accessed. We have private property that's heavily accessed, unfortunately, and things like this. It really would be best to kind of find the spots where we match up. And so this is where we're at. We're in the middle of the reboot process. Now we have it broken down basically into 4 groups. So we have all these collaborating partners who are steering this, and they have it broken down so that each topic is basically going to be handled by a group of people. And there's going to be a governance group, basically a steering committee that will kind of oversee this and create the actual shape and formation. Now, one of the things that we're trying to figure out how to do this is what is that going to look like? And so starting out, where, it's just you guys are in the MAC, and so you're kind of slowly, as you evolve, things change and come and go. That's going to probably be the same with this group. And so we're going to have these different groups kind of looking at where we need to focus resources, focus energy, and really do outreach. So the big thing, and the reason why we're here doing this at 7:30 at night, is that we really need to bring the community into this. And so as this builds out, we're going to be reaching out to the CACs and the MACs to really get in here and get involved and really let us know and be our eyes and our ears on the ground of what's going on, so that when we go into this with these different agencies, we can collaborate and really deliver results in ways that are going to be helpful for the average person, and also will help the communities along the river have a really cohesive strategy for dealing with a lot of these issues. And that's all I got.
Thanks so much, Jen. The one of the big projects that we're getting started with, and we have an RFP that will be launched actually tomorrow, is the Russian River Resilience Education and Outreach Program. And this is focusing from the marketing group. We actually pulled together, as Jen referenced, right after the last flood, we pulled together a group of people in the lower Russian River, including the Economic Development Board, the Russian River Chamber of Commerce, a lot of business leaders, to talk about what was needed to engage and promote businesses, but also to have it be more stewarding of the river rather than simply come up and trash the area and leave. Sonoma County Tourism is also working on that message, as is regional parks with Recreate Responsibly. So we're going to bring together all these different people, and we're going to create a campaign along the lines of the famous Keep Tahoe Blue campaign. We're going to hire a company that's going to help us come up with a clever brand and messaging that will help people value the river. And at the same time, we're going to be having educational pieces. And what we're working on is to work with businesses, to work with lodging properties, to work with chambers of commerce, in order to have materials so that whenever people come through to buy plastic materials, they have the option of buying Russian River branded merchandise, perhaps that is recyclable or reusable or compostable, or keeping plastics out of the rivers, keeping those things out of the rivers as well. We're looking at having a portal on the Confluence website where people can find projects that help the river and then participate. So the new Adopt a Road program will be up there, so that if you want to sponsor a section of the road, you'll know where to find it. If we're looking at doing an art project and getting new trash receptacles and having artists paint the trash receptacles. So we'll have a lot of different projects, a lot of different ways for people to engage in education, in knowledgeable about the river, and also about constantly spreading the word not to trash the river. One of the key things that led into this project was the concept of addressing trash in the Russian River watershed. The slide earlier that Jen was showing showing how many different people were coming together to work on these projects. So in addressing the trash in the Russian River, as part of this, we started saying, okay, how can we identify where all the trash is coming from and how we can keep it out of the river? So we looked at what are the impacts of the ongoing trash issues. Excuse me for going through this very quickly. We're short on time, but this will be in the notes, and I'll also post it on social media. So we looked at the sources of trash. We're always pointing fingers at somebody else. It's the visitors, it's the residents that fly tip, it's the businesses that provide all the plastic, it's the unhoused. It's really everybody contributes in some way. I've spent a lot of time out with Chris Brocate and his team, and you can see all the things, the Starbucks cups that residents pop trash out of their windows. I've been out with Kiri and Sorensen, and we've got situations where residents that don't have residential trash services or second homeowners will take an entire week's trash and fill up the trash cans on Main Street and make it impossible for visitors to get in there. So there are many, many sources. And so we're trying to attack this from a lot of different directions. We have all these different people working on it together. We've had meetings of all these different groups to talk about how we can improve the trash situation. And here are some of the things that we have in the works. We've spoken with Recology multiple times, and they're really excited to partner with us. We've also hooked up them and Kiri and Sally Sorensen to talk about how our locals and the larger county services can work together. We have started working on the education campaigns and merchandise for businesses around the river. In the residential areas, we really want to start educating people about the benefits of residential trash. I think that a lot of people don't know, for example, that if you have residential trash, you can also 4 times a year get a big dumpster brought in for free from Recology. So if you're going to do a neighborhood cleanup, talk to the people in the area that have residential trash and get some of those benefits out of Recology working in your neighborhood. So we're going to do more education about some of the things that are possible there. One of the big topics that has come up many, many times is trash mowing. We've made some huge strides on this, and it's very exciting. So Transportation and Public Works is working on coordination with Recology to get trash picked up before mowing. That's a new development. We're also notifying Riverkeeper and the Adopt a Roads sponsors so that trash can be picked up before roadside mowing, so that we're notifying people ahead of time. They're looking at more frequent cleanups of vegetation so that trash doesn't get hidden and it's easier to pick up. And we're also looking at, not looking at, it's been done, they're re-permitting right now Caltrans for the water board, and they've put in that permit that they cannot be mowing trash into the river. So we're looking at legal options as well as coordination options. So things are in the works there, should get better quickly. We're also looking at enforcing covered loads. Republic is committed to more tarping, and CHP is going to help us with spot checks at the Guerneville dump to make sure that loads are covered so that things aren't just flying out. The Adopt a Road program has launched and is ready for promotion and will be promoted, as I said, through the confluence. Some of the things that are coming up, I just mentioned in the Confluence Project, the Keep Tahoe Blue educational campaign. We really believe that across the board, we need to change the culture of trash dumping and also engage visitors and businesses and residents alike to just shift the whole culture around. We're going to be giving businesses tools to educate consumers. We want to let's see, I've already talked about the Adopt a Highway, the mowing. Regional Parks is working on educating visitors as well. They have a program that is actually rolled out throughout the state called Recreate Responsibly. We're talking to homeless groups about, not talking to homeless groups, but talking to the groups that work with the homeless about ways to pick up their trash better. And we're also looking at enforcement of current ordinances. We want to really empower neighborhoods and people to help solve this issue as well. We want to educate, enforce, and also have a little shaming. If people are dumping trash, we want them to be called out for it. And we want problems reported, and we want to see pride in the community. So Alice, our new member in Hacienda, is a huge leader on trash, and she helped put together this PowerPoint. Thank you so much, Alice, for your time. But also she has been working really hard on putting together community trash pickups, as has Pip in Rio Neto. There are a lot of different neighborhoods that have been doing that. And we're going to be working, the county's going to be working with those neighborhoods to try to bring resources together and help it. So we just covered really, really quickly the relaunch of the Confluence, which is an awesome big project to focus on the environmental health of the river and the thriving environment for residents and businesses alike. We've talked about a great new marketing campaign that's going to roll out as part of that. And thirdly, the fact that we're really hammering on trash issues and working on solving trash issues. And we're going to look at that from a lot of different directions. And we're making big progress on that. So there we go. That's about 6 months worth of work in 5 minutes. Bye. I see Mike's hand up.
Real quick, Elise, would you be sure to post the slide decks on the website so we all have an opportunity to review them? Thank you.
Peruse that a little more slowly. Yes, I will. Alice?
Alice.
Hi, I know we're so short on time at this point, but I think we want to propose an ad hoc committee to look at, trash issues, but more than that, looking at solutions. And I want to give a huge thank you to the Clean River Alliance, who came and finished what we've done in our community under like the Mom's Beach and Hacienda Bridge cleanup this year. They came out in force about 6 weeks ago and cleaned up enormous like biohazard horror stuff. So I just thank you, Clean River Alliance. And Vera, Randy, thank you for your comments. We see them. So we are looking for community members to join the ad hoc for trash and river cleanup. So that's something that we can get to. But there will be a place for all of the community voices to communicate back and forth with the county. Thank you. And thank you, Elise.
Thanks, Alice. I think Pip's going to be working on the ad hoc committee soon as we can get back to him. Yes.
Okay, this is Nance. I was just going to mention that. Okay, thanks, Elise.
Yep.
Nick?
Nick, quickly.
Quickly, Spanish language, Latinx outreach should be a major part of this, not just translating all of the material, but actually involving the community, getting perspectives and material that is geared specifically by them for them.
You're absolutely right. And to that end, we have already reached out to, or Jen Mendoza has helping me reach out to the Spanish Chamber of Commerce and to others in the area to work on that. You're absolutely right.
Okay, any questions from the public or comments?
We have a comment in the Q&A from Eric Frazier. Of course, you can't vilify and misunderstand visitors, many from with our own county, and expect to effectively dialogue with them too. Then also another one from Eric Frazier. The merch angel tends to be really a novelty. I think it would be more effective to assemble a collection of merch representing many of the fine NGOs, state, local govs, and even small business who really represent, rather than promoting the name of a new organization.
Great.
Thanks for your comment, Eric.
All right, I think that is it on that subject. That was actually really great. So that brings us to our next thing, which is ad hocs. So I've come up with a list of 5 different ad hocs. Some of them are based on what we did last year. A couple of them are new this year. One thing that I wanted to do was to make the ad hocs task very specific to so people really understood what we were trying to do, both the MAC and the community. So, and I have put down chair people's names, and I think all of you on these have had something to do with the subject before, so it won't be that much of a surprise. And then we will ask the council members who wants to join the ad hoc as well. And then we'll do a raise of hands on each one of these things. So the first one we have is the trash ad hoc. Since we were just talking about that, and specifically they'll work with staff at District 5 and Elise to connect community cleanup efforts with available resources and ideas to address trash challenges. And I have Alice Teeter as the chair for that ad hoc. Your hand raised there, Vesta?
You're asking us if we want to be on that ad hoc at
Yeah,
this
and
moment?
then we need other council members to join and I know other people have been working on some of these issues, so people are already lined up to do it as well. So, but I didn't want to impose my will on everyone. I want everyone to volunteer if they want to do it.
The trash one definitely interests me very much.
Anyone else? Kira.
And Vesta, are you interested in chairing that, or are you?
Lisa is the chair.
Okay.
Right.
No, Alice is the chair. Right?
Alice is,
Sorry, I was looking at my screen and reading wrong.
Alice is the chair, right, of that committee, and then Vesta and Kyra are volunteering. Okay. Okay.
But you can only have two council members on an ad hoc, and then you have to have alternates and volunteers, I think. No, I'm
No,
wrong.
it has to be less than a quorum, so we can have up to 4. Okay, so Lisa, Vesta, and Kira. Is it Kira or Kyra?
Alice.
Saying it wrong?
It's Alice.
Okay, Kyra. Okay, I apologize.
And not Lisa.
Not Lisa. It's Alice.
Oh, you know what? You guys are all in a row on my screen, so I'm just reading across the screen. Sorry about that. Okay, vacation rental ad hoc. So there was some work that was done on this last year. Vesta was very much involved with it. And so the specific task here is to augment existing research done by last year's ad hoc and collect additional data to better understand the neighborhood impact of vacation rentals and to share their findings with the Lower Russian River MAC and the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors. And I have Vesta as the chair of that committee for ad hoc.
Exactly. And Nick was working with us last year, and I'm kind of hoping he would again. Is there any chance he would want to do this again, Nick?
Yes, I'm totally on board. And we'd actually wanted to add another thing, which would be to produce some sort of living with vacation rentals for the local residents, just as resources, because we are always getting questions about how do I make a complaint and what is this, and just, you know, create some sort of straightforward resource for people to go to get answers.
Okay, great.
Yeah, the bottom line on that one is we do need some more help. When we put together our survey, we like the other surveys, we're not familiar with how to do these. We're not professional survey takers, questions and all the rest of it, and we had to do it very quickly. What we were trying to get is the neighborhood by neighborhood, an actual accounting of how many people are neighbors and how many people are vacation rentals. And it's the whole concept of there are some neighborhoods where it's out of balance. And so that's the thing we're looking for, is the balance. And so if someone is interested in that topic, we could use some people who actually know more about it.
Okay, and then we also have Lucy Hardcastle, who's raised her hand. So we got Vesta, Nick, and Lucy.
Yes, I'd volunteer on that committee.
Awesome, thank you, Lucy. All right.
Pip,
yeah.
I see the Vera Foss. Is that a community member or?
That is a member of the public.
Oh, okay, got it. She's a community member. Thanks.
Okay, outreach and communications ad hoc. We had a communications ad hoc last year. This year will be different in that their goal will be to create a resource that allows the Lower Russian River MAC to better communicate with constituents. This will include locations to post notices, neighborhood group contact information, moderators of online neighborhood groups, etc. I mean, one of the things that has been problematic for whether it be the vacation rental group or on this last go round on parking is that each ad hoc has to kind of start from scratch to figure out where they go in each of the communities to get the best information that they can. So this group will consolidate that information, do some outreach, and create a resource for the entire MAC to both get information from and provide information to, more than just process and procedures on what we say and who we say it to. And on that committee, I have Lisa as the chair.
Yes.
And I know there was other people interested in this. So if you want to raise your hand, I'm trying to go quick, sorry.
There's Alice.
You got Alice?
You know, I'm not sure, but one of the things I'm wondering about if this is going to cover is when I had a very warm handoff from Claudia, who was this hacienda for the last 2 years. She had questions, and it sounds like a lot of the other MAC representatives have questions about what are the boundaries and communities that we serve. So we're sort of looking for a map of that. Is that something that would fall into this, Lisa?
We have a map on the website for the Lower Russian River MAC pages.
I pulled it up and it doesn't actually outline the communities the way that I have accessed it, but I haven't looked in the last like maybe 6 weeks. So
it has colors. It's color. I can,
okay, you know, and I probably just need to go back because it just had like a Greene County map with neighborhood, but they're more real estate designations. So sorry.
Okay, and then the last one is we had a land use ad hoc last year. It was a little bit broad in that there wasn't specific projects that were assigned to the ad hoc. So what we might want to do this year is look at certain projects that may be happening that a land use ad hoc would look at. So my understanding is there's someone that's potentially interested in is it the Pee Wee Golf in Guerneville, of converting that into something else. So if that project came up, we would assign an ad hoc specifically to that to deal with that.
I'm sorry, I think that my question derailed Lisa's. I'm sorry, Lisa, did you get to finish? I'm sorry.
Oh, I wasn't, I think Pip was just listing ad hocs, but I don't know if Naomi wanted to do the outreach with me.
Naomi, did you want to be on that ad
Lisa,
hoc?
is that what you and I were talking about trying to compile places like possibly business email information and or like physical locations?
Correct.
Then yes, please. Sorry,
Thank
I
you.
misunderstood that. Thank you for the reminder.
That's okay. And Nick, I've duly noted your outreach suggestions to Latinx communities and translations, et cetera. So thank you for that.
Okay, so land use. So instead of being this general thing that could go on forever, more specific on specific projects, we had the issue that the ad hoc focused on last time was mostly surrounded the Gurnwood Park and Hotel. And there was a report that was done. It was kind of buried in the packet, and so it wasn't presented publicly to folks. And I know that a lot of people have reached out to me and said they want a public go at this. So it would be great if we had an ad hoc that focused on Gurnwood Park right now. And that would be to present the findings from the land use committee before and coordinate a presentation with the law group and their representative and any county agency that we see fit for the April Lower Russian River MAC meeting.
That's my neighborhood. So, I mean, it's my backyard. So I feel like I should, if you want someone to head up an ad hoc for the Dubrava property, I'll take that on.
Yeah, and Mike, I don't know if you're interested potentially because you started that project.
Yeah, I had a comment. This is ad hocs are basically, as you pointed out, short-term appointments. However, when you look at the formation documents for the Lower Russian River MAC, land use is one of the pillars of our existence. And in so being a pillar, I would think that it would be an ongoing committee, a subcommittee, therefore requiring Brown Act compliance and so forth. So my suggestion is that we remove it from the discussion as an ad hoc and create the discussion that it be a subcommittee.
I think that's an excellent point, Mike. And that's one of the reasons why we had one thing that was there before that could be specific right now, and then maybe we do need to have a standing committee that is more longer term focused.
It would have to be up to the purview of yourself, and then require a board motion to create a subcommittee.
Right. So for right now, I'm saying just an ad hoc specifically on Gernwood. And then we can have a discussion, not during the meeting, because we're running out of time, on whether we should or shouldn't form a standing committee and how that's formed.
We have to conduct that discussion in an open meeting.
Oh, well, then we'll do it next time.
Excellent. We do have a report on the Gernwood project, and that should be in the board packet.
Yeah. That was in the last packet.
Is in the current packet as well, I believe.
Oh, is it in the current one as well? Okay, great. And those are,
go ahead.
And those are the ad hoc committees.
I only have 4, Pip.
Vacation rental, parking permit, Glenwood Park, outreach, communications, and trash.
Sorry, I missed the parking permit one.
I think you skipped over it, Pip.
Oh, did I? So it's basically a continuation of what the folks were working on before, and the chair on that is Kyra.
Kyra, okay, thank you. And who are the members, the other members of that committee?
I believe Lisa. On that.
Lisa. Okay. Okay, thanks.
Anyone else interested in the parking permit ad hoc? Alice?
Yeah, it's a big issue for Mom's Beach and Forest Hills. So yeah, I think I should participate in that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Alice.
All right. That are the ad hocs for now, and we will take up the land use, how exactly to form that at the next meeting. All right, and with that, folks, the meeting is now adjourned.
Great job, Pip.
Wait, we need a motion. We need
I'll
a motion.
move.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I'll move
And
to
there was,
adjourn the meeting. I'll move to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second it.
Wait, can I back up 1 second here? Let me back up. Pip, Mr. Chair, were you going to call for agenda items or no?
Yes, I am. I'm sorry, I forgot.
Okay, and then we'll go to adjournment. Okay.
All right, and I have those, Nance, I have those ad hoc descriptions written up that I can send to you.
I was going to ask you for them. I'll send you an email. I'll get them from you.
All right. This is both for the council and the public. This is a call for agenda items. Nick, you got your hand raised?
Yeah, I just want to make extra sure that we have the Guerneville bathroom situation on the next agenda for the next meetings.
I have that noted, Nick. Thank you.
Great.
Alice?
Looking at the south end of the Hacienda Bridge, going into summer, will that be an illegal party beach or will it be boarded up? What is going on with that in terms of the county? Who owns that space?
All right. Anyone else? Vesta?
Anything that has to do with impending summer. So progress on the trash is going to be really important as we head into it. I mean, parking and trash are probably, and then if we could get an update on the shuttle, I'd love to get some updates on some of the things that we've discussed this time, because April is when people start coming and we need to be addressing these every meeting until just progress reports. What are we doing? How are we doing it? So however you put that on there in terms of updates from our committees, etc., we're gonna need this big time. This summer, I expect to be just as bad as last, if not worse.
Nick?
Can we get an update on Armstrong Woods and timelines and just where they are with that? Just, you know, I'm sure a lot of people would be curious, and it'd be something that the community would really, I'm sure, like to know more about.
Okay. All right, anyone in any public comment on that? We got Vera.
We do have Vera. Would you like to hear from her?
We have her agenda item.
We got it. We got it. So we're good.
Okay.
All right. So with that, I'd like to hear a motion to adjourn.
It's a move.
And we got Alice with her hand raised as a second.
Hey. All in favor, right?
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good
Thank you
night.
all so much.
Everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Excellent work. Pip, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay,
Nance.
I'll
Good
get
job,
back.
Pip. On our very first meeting, everyone. Good job.
Yeah.
Good job, Pip.
Hey, good to
Well
meet you all
done.
again.